But I just think that this whole perception that the Republicans can't govern is persisting. The health care bill, obviously, it hasn't gotten across the finish line. We don't know when tax reform is going to start. People are worried about this bill. How are you going to communicate that, House Republicans in general, can govern after these years of being in the minority?
Sure. Well, I mean, look at this week. I mean, there's a chance this week we have a government funding bill that funds our priorities. Gets a wall built on the southern border, more money for defense, all the things we've talked about. Also, perhaps by the end of this week, we have something passed out of the House on health care. We've heard good things about that this morning. There's been some developments. The moderates may be coming around to support the bill in the House. You may see a vote as early as Saturday there. That's a pretty good week for a president who supposedly, in the minds of some, can't govern. That's a lot of governing in just a couple of days. Yeah, tax reform is not going to be done next week. Nobody expects that. You know that. You don't do tax reform, comprehensive tax reform in an economy of this size in a couple of weeks. But we have started that discussion. We are walking and chewing gum at the same time. And my guess is if we do a show on Saturday or Sunday, it might be a pretty good week for the administration. All
right. So the health care reform bill, then, you feel confident that this is going to get through this week, you think? I mean, House Republicans are struggling to secure the votes, right, to pass the current bill. White House officials say that they remain confident, but you're still shy on the votes. Do you think we'll see a breakthrough this week, then?
Yeah, I think they're real close. I'm hearing this morning that Congressman Fred Upton from Michigan has an idea on how to sort of address some of the issues he sees in the bill with pre-existing conditions. I don't share those concerns, but I respect Fred's position. He's the former chairman of the committee that has oversight over health care on the Hill, so certainly he has the right to check in on the bill, and we welcome his input. And if he's got some ideas that would be acceptable to everybody else and how to fix that in his mind, that may be the linchpin that we get to get the moderates to support the bill as well, and you may see overwhelming support for the bill by the end of the week.
All right, so then what happens once you get overwhelming support for the bill in the House?
Well, then that's the old Saturday morning television program, right? It's just a bill. Yes, it's only a bill. It's sitting there on Capitol Hill. It'll go over to the Senate, and the Senate will pass something entirely different, and they'll go to conference and try and hammer out those differences, and the president will participate in that, and he'll either sign the bill or veto it. We all remember the show because we're all that old, I guess.
Yeah, I like Schoolhouse Rock. I'm glad you brought it up, yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to work. These are not supposed to be pre-cooked deals, but done in back rooms. It's supposed to be out in the open. Let the lawmakers make some law. Let the president participate in the process, and who knows, at the end we might get a really, really good piece of legislation.
Now, you want a really good piece of legislation, but unfortunately, in this day and age of, constant media attention and information everywhere, the communication strategy is really important as well. So I guess what I'm asking Director Mulvaney is what are you going to do about the resistance? What are you going to do about the fact that publicly the perception seems to be that President Trump is being stopped at every turn? You look at the immigration situation and the federal judges that are trying to stop his executive order and doing so, and then the resistance within the Republican Party. If you go too much in what the Freedom Caucus wants, you alienate the moderates in the group. So the communication strategy is as important. What are you going to do to make your base feel like you're actually getting things done?
We're going to do exactly what we did on this funding bill. We're going to do that again and again, and that is move the ball in the right direction. Did we get everything we wanted to out of the funding bill? No. But again, you're not going to get everything you want as a Republican when you have to get 8 votes out of the Senate Democrats. But we moved the ball in the right direction. We're going to do that on this funding bill. We're going to do it on health care. We're going to do it on taxes. We're simply going to keep winning. And that's how we're going to send the message that the president can govern. They made the right choice in electing him president, and he's going to serve the role extraordinarily well. We're going to do what we do, which is try and fix the country.
What are you learning in this process that you're going to do differently in the next budget for 2018 come September?
That's a really good question. Keep in mind that the 17 budget that it's not a budget, it's a spending bill that we just did, that was actually a bonus for us. That should have been President Obama's money. That should have been his budget. He was incapable of passing a bill back in September to fund the government for the entire 17 fiscal year, which we're in right now, which ends in September. So this was a sort of a second bite at the apple for us. We shouldn't have even been able to get this. Everything we got here was a bonus. Now you go to the 18 budget discussions, which will begin tomorrow. And what we'll talk about doing now is instead of starting with a bipartisan bill, you're going to start with a Republican bill in the House. And we'll try and fashion a bill with much more acceptable to the Republican base, to the Republicans everywhere, and to try and put our mark on that House bill before it goes over to the Senate. So we won't pre-negotiate a bipartisan bill. That's how we can get our message across into what our real priorities are. You'll see more money for border security, more money for defense, the same things we've talked about, but we'll be involved in the process earlier in 18, and I think that's a critical step in the right direction.
So are you setting things up this time around for the next negotiation come September?
Well, the discussions about the 2018 budget have already started. We unveiled our blueprint back in March. So those things are already ongoing.
All right, we will leave it there. We'll be watching. Mick Mulvaney, good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Maria.
We'll see you soon.